Town Board meeting, 6:30 PM, Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. Please note there's two emergency exits in the rear of the room and one to the right of me over here to my right. If you could, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing to remember those who are serving in harm's way. Thank you. There's anyone here tonight who wishes to speak on behalf of any of the agenda items prior to the meeting?
It's on. Awesome. I really just wanted you guys to hear my voice without laryngitis. Again, my name is Mike Harwood. I saw you a few weeks ago with the public hearing closed for the agenda item with the solar arrays. I just wanted to take a minute to come in and just reiterate that I'm really excited about this project possibility. We've got a solar array that is different than any other project in our area, in terms of visibility, how it's going to get back to our community with, up to 1,000 residents having savings on their bills, and not up next to a road, beautiful fencing around it with vegetation growing up, and way to keep one of our farms active. So just wanted to thank you guys for your consideration into the matter. And if there's any other questions that you have for us over here, we're glad to answer them.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to pardon me, somebody else want to speak? Oh, go ahead. I apologize.
There it goes. My name is Jamie Party. I live at 5980 Schneller Road in Brewerton, right near where the solar project's going to go. As we've talked before in the past, as far as the screening aspect of it, if you look at the existing screening that's proposed on the Mud Mill or McKinley Road project, you can see right through it. So this project, there is no existing screening because it's field. Property lines owned right to it. And also I said before that you can't predict the future or see what's going to happen in the future. Since that, someone has come in to subdivide the property next to it. So if they're deciding to do anything with that, the screening should go all the way around the property to protect that property for future development. And that's all. Thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else? We'll move on to number 3. Oh, I'm sorry. Come on up. Sure. We already had the public hearing. It's closed. Correct. It's all right.
So tonight you're going to decide.
Correct.
Okay, so I can have.
Sure.
You just click the button. I think it's on already.
Testing. Okay.
So
Here, I put these up last week. These are the pictures. This is from the road. I'll try to speak loud so everybody can hear me. This is from the road on Mud Mill. The existing the solar farm that's being proposed. This is the McKinley project. So the problem that I see is that, and it was highlighted in the last meeting by the developer of the project, that the trees, the plantings, I think are going to be about 5 to 6 feet. The solar arrays is, I believe, going to be right up to the max 15 feet. So it's really very difficult to screen that project from the road on a mud mill, and you could see mud mill, the visual. I'd say a bunch of it is, those are the pictures from last meeting. So there's some screening on part of it. It's a very wide span. The house is there, that screens it to the I guess it would be to the west of the house. There's some bigger trees that screens it, but there's a wide area that doesn't screen. The other thing that I see is the poles, which are going to be very high. Those can't be screened. When I looked at the regulations again, there was some ambiguity to me in the regulations regarding the poles and regarding the requirements for underground, wiring, whatever the connections are to the utility. And I'm not sure that it was confirmed by the utility, or proof was given that the utility would not allow underground conduit for the project. So that's something that I would ask the board to consider, that they haven't had proof of that. The other thing that I haven't seen proof of, we talk a lot about the savings and the cost savings on utilities. I've yet to see a utility bill that shows that 10% savings. And that would be something I'd ask the board to consider, whether you're satisfied that it truly is going to save the neighboring property owners on their electric bills. I had some more notes and I just want to try to find them here. The other thing that I brought up in the last meeting was that the planning board clearly in their minutes and in their resolution recommended that a berm be placed. The developer of the project said that that wasn't feasible. There wasn't, to my knowledge, really any good solid reasonings. I just want to hand out some minutes to the planning board to one of their meetings, November 16th. And give you an idea of what was discussed there by the engineer of the project. This was, I think maybe the second meeting or third, where I highlighted the sections that the engineer, Mr. Palumbo, he actually a landscape architect with the engineering firm, spoke at that meeting, and you could see he says we can take a look to the south to see if we need to put additional plantings there. And then further down, he said, we can't impede natural hydrology courses, but I think we can look at that and find it's better suited. This is about the soil that's being removed, that the soil would be better suited to put back of site and incorporate some plantings on there. And he said he would bring that back to the team and respond. And there's really been no response on that. And again, that was a way, that discussion, the context was in the context of putting some type of berm so that those trees could be raised higher. The other thing I'd mention, Mr. Pardee mentioned about the proposed subdivision on Sneller Road that runs adjacent to this property. That's agricultural land. And again, without our comprehensive plan in this area, it's hard for me to be in favor right now of approving these types of changes to our property. to the property in the town. And so I would ask that you consider holding on this until the comprehensive plan is developed, until we see what happens with Micron. And also, I guess probably the biggest factor is that the McKinley Road solar farm, when you measure from McKinley to this proposed project, it's about 1,000 yards, 3,000 feet roughly. So to me, that's the regulations were pretty clear about overburdening a neighborhood. And to me, that's pretty close to have two huge solar farms. And also, I'm assuming that you know that a few weeks ago, another solar farm was presented at the town planning board meeting, and that would be on Mud Mill Road also, just probably, a half a mile down the road on Mud Mill and Route 11. So that would be another reason I'd recommend that you hold on deciding on this until we see where that project goes. And if they're true, I don't know what area you would consider, it's probably subjective to what's overburdening a neighborhood, but what if that project is better than this project? And if this project passed, then that project, it probably doesn't pass. And then we look back and say, geez, we should have done that. Similar to probably some of the hindsight, and for the McKinley project, which I also blame myself for not being, in the know on that and not coming to these meetings and until I see it going up, and then, it kind of motivated me to start having more input. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to another one. Oh, come on up. State your name and your address, please.
I've been a legal consultant for close to 2 decades. One of my primary projects that I work on is actually representing plaintiffs.
Excuse me, use the microphone, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll be nice, I'll push a button.
Push the button on the side of the mic.
It'll turn green. There's a light on it.
Hold it in.
Nope, just let it release it and see if it stays on. Chris, can you help her, please?
Is it working?
Yes,
Okay.
it's working.
I apologize. So one of the primary projects that I've worked on throughout the years has been representing plaintiffs in regards to solar energy, green energy projects and damages sustained during those projects. I can get on my soapbox for days. As a result, clearly, I'm not typically a proponent of these projects. I was asked by the Harwood family to consult and kind of look over some preliminary agreements and conversations that they had had at the beginning phases of this project. What I did was I outlined all of the parameters for the damages that were sustained during those class action lawsuits. And while I can't discuss the specifics of those parameters, it's my belief that those have all been addressed in this arrangement. To be honest with you, the biggest concern with green energy is that it's going to damage water tables. It sometimes can damage the installation, can sometimes damage wildlife. It can sometimes permanently affect wildlife in the area, that type of thing. These solar projects don't have those issues. As a result, there are benefits to them. And I think that, as our society kind of moves toward being a little bit more green energy conscious, I think you're going to see the majority of these. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to the fact that this isn't town land that this is being proposed on. This is private land owned by a family. They have a right to do what they want to do on their land as long as it's not disturbing other property owners, as long as it's not disturbing the wildlife, as long as it's not deteriorating property values and that type of thing. This doesn't meet any of that criteria. So I don't think that it's something that needs to be assessed further in addition to, I apologize, I came in a little bit late. I didn't get his name. The gentleman that just spoke before me was kind of, his concerns were that, there's a project that's being proposed that could potentially benefit the community a little bit more. At the end of the day, this is private land. This isn't town land. This is not up to the town whether or not another project would benefit them. I mean, this is the property owner, so they should have the authority to do what they want on their land as long as it's not, affecting anyone else. And from what I understand, none of the criteria that this project, includes has any of those class action lawsuit materials, so. I had to point that out.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on to number 3. Counselor White,
Approval of abstracts. Move for the adoption of a resolution approving abstract number 7 of 2023, dated 2/15/2023, and number 8 of 2023, dated 2/22/2023.
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Wish to vote no or abstain? Passed. Number 4, Counselor. Clerk?
All right, this time we will do the seeker, the findings and conclusions, and the decision on the public hearing that we closed the last meeting on the proposed Mud Mill Road photovoltaic array. Start with the seeker. Move the adoption resolution declaring the application known as Bartel South PV1 LLC for a special use permit for property located at Mud Mill Road South Side, tax map number 08.-01-20.1 to accommodate a proposed tier 3 solar energy system as a type 1 action for the purposes of seeker evaluation. The proposed action involves no other permit granting authority outside the town. The proposed action does not have a negative impact on the environment and therefore does not require the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Wish to vote no or abstain? Passed.
This time I will read the findings of,
Do I have time to ask questions first? Of
I say
the-
yes.
we'll actually be voting on the matter after
I have questions of the developer. If I
Oh,
could,
okay,
do
sure. I
that.
mean, either
That's
before or
okay
after.
with
That's,
everyone?
Yeah. I 100% agree.
oh, yeah, have at it.
Hi.
Good evening, Steve Darkangelo with Klepperhan and Hyatt.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lucas Faria, and I'm the director for Gilhead Development.
Very nice. Thank you guys for coming. Should be quick, just questions that I've come up with. The access road, will that be paved?
No, that road is, there's a shoulder coming off the road and then a short distance of it is paved, approximately 50 feet off the shoulder. Following that, it would be a gravel road going up into the site.
Okay, I thought that we needed that paved in case of fire for any reason.
I think
Is
our
that
fire,
true?
our fire department, speaking with them recently, they requested a paved road back there.
Okay, we had not understood that. Generally, we don't pave these roads, but they are built in accordance with handling the load for those types of vehicles, emergency response vehicles. If there's an interest in having it paved, we could take it into consideration, but to be very honest, one of the reasons that we don't pave, these roads are built a little differently than what you might think. Traditionally, we have a road that is crowned, has a shoulder, and then has drainage on each side. The purpose of these roads being built differently is to have as little impact as possible. So while we do box these roads out about 12 inches deep and then construct them back with a designed roadway, we don't pave them, we don't crown them, and we don't put shoulders. We want water to shed across these. We don't want anything, we don't want to channelize water, so we don't want swales. So they're not built in accordance with what you would normally say roadway design. That's one of the issues paving, because if we were to pave, we would now create something a little bit deeper, probably our excavation be somewhat deeper, not much. But we don't have the same hydraulics that we have certainly now. We'd have a condition where our impermeable would not necessarily increase because we do count the road as impermeable for our SWIP. But the factor in developing the runoff is different, and it's the factor actually increases, meaning we are shedding water more quickly off the site. And we're trying to simulate current conditions as much as possible. We would certainly work with the fire department to develop a roadway that accommodates them. We would like to stay away from a paved road, though, for a number of different reasons.
Okay, well, I ask that because that is in part of our code. It's a 208-10, it's lot coverage, and the following components of a tier 3 solar energy system shall be considered included in the calculations for lot coverage requirements, paved access roads servicing the solar energy system. And that's also for fire, snow removal, so that the fire trucks can get back there if necessary. I mean, I'm sure doesn't happen every day.
No.
But just asking because it is in here. So I did want to bring that up. Let's
And
see.
just a few more things that I'd like to address. I think just to go off of what Steve was saying, for a gravel road, it would be considered much less minimal disturbance than if it were to be a paved road.
Mhm.
And I think, in general, when you think about decommissioning this site, it's also much easier to bring it back to the state that it was originally when you have gravel road as opposed to a paved road. And I think that's consistent with, the minimal impact that we're trying to bring for this project.
Oh, I understand your reasoning. I'm just
Yeah.
asking because it is in our code. So I did want to ask about that. Our last meeting, I asked how tall they are at their highest peak, like when they're straight up and down. And is that 16 feet?
Yes. The model that's being proposed for this site is approximately 16 feet tall when it's at its steepest pitch.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, and just to provide a little bit more detail, that is based on the currently spec'd equipment that we have for this project. We're proposing that height as the, say, ceiling height. We intend on ordering that equipment, but say, there's a different, any supply chain issues and we need to change the equipment, we would obviously bring it before the board and getting that approved, but that would probably be lower. But just wanted to clarify that that's, the top height.
Okay, because again, the height of all tier 3 systems shall not exceed 15 feet.
Can I ask for clarification with regard to the paving? You say it's in our code. Are you saying that our code requires the roads to be paved?
Well,
I mean, because the only place I find that paving being mentioned is that it says paved access roads servicing the solar energy system are counted as part of the lot coverage, but I don't see anything, maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. I don't see anything requiring that the access roads be paved. I just want to make sure I understand what it is, you're talking about when you say it's in our code. Because the only thing I see is 210 D1C, and D is lot coverage. 1 is the following components shall be included in the lot coverage, and C is the paved access roads. That's the only, if I search for paved or paved,
yeah,
that's all I get. So I wanted to clarify what your comment or your question was about. Or are you saying that it's your understanding that that's required the road be paved? I'm not seeing that in the code.
yeah, I'm trying to find the other
Okay,
spot where the fire
okay.
department.
Yeah, I'd
Was in here.
appreciate that because I just want to make sure we're talking about, or I'm thinking about the thing you're talking about. Thank you.
Absolutely. And again, and if I'm wrong on any of this, that's fine.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just.
No, I know. I just wanted to clarify stuff
Yeah.
before I.
As we're looking for clarification on that, is that even something that doesn't that go back to the planning board?
I mean, we could approve it subject to pretty much reasonably, we could probably approve it subject to it, but I mean, The problem is we're adding more impermeable surface if we add a paved, and I don't know about fire truck access. That's not my area of expertise. But when I think about paving something, we get concerned about drainage and runoff, and a paved road is impermeable. So maybe it's required for fire apparatus. You might know that. I wouldn't.
Paved road,
Yeah,
that I know, paved road isn't required for as long as it takes the weight of our vehicles.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not an expert.
And I agree with your statement with regards to the erosion control measures. One thing I'd like to add also, I think Steve mentioned earlier, we have an apron that goes into the site. So as far as access, there would be, a small section paved from the public way into our site that would allow for, any heavy construction vehicles, and then it would go into the gravel road.
Okay.
Okay. Counselor Carp, you're probably correct that I was reading that wrong.
Okay.
So, but I do see this under safety, that site access shall be maintained, including snow removal at a level acceptable to the local fire department and local ambulance corps.
So do these roads get
So
paved on a
Probably
regular
isn't
basis?
necessarily
No?
paved.
They do get cleared, yes. They are maintained through the winter months, yes.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, good.
Who are do we know who the adjoining landowners are? And were they all notified of the public hearing that we had?
That goes to,
Mr. Procopio, can you
Yes.
comment?
Yes, they were.
They were?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. Let's see, sorry. The trees that you're looking at putting in, at our last meeting, it was 5 to 7, but at the planning board meeting, it was 7 to 8 or 6 to 8 or 7 to 8. It was 5 to 6. And then when the other meeting was 7 to 8, do we have just to clarify that, please?
I think at the last meeting, I read off the planting plan. And so there are 33 sugar maples, and they are specified to be going at 8 foot of height. There are white spruce, 97, 7 foot of height. The hemlocks, 32, 7 foot of height, and then the others are considered shrubs. So we don't have a height at planting. So they're 7 to 8 feet of height. We actually prefer to plant them at a younger age because they take root faster and they will develop faster, and they will start out for year 1 and 2 to be at a lower height, but years 3 through 10 would be a higher height than a larger tree that may have been planted at a more mature tree, but it was higher to begin with, but it won't mature quite as fast.
Okay, thank you. You're Mr. D'Arcangelo,
I am,
correct? Okay. At the planning board meeting, you talked about no indicators that putting pipes like this in the ground will result in contamination to groundwater. We will see what we can do to give you confidence that this is not going to have a negative impact on any aquifer or the groundwater. Have you come up with any other information on that at all?
Well, we did send a letter into the supervisor which addressed that matter. I have not been able to find anything that I would refer to as a scientific peer-reviewed paper that gives any indication that galvanized pipe on or in the ground leads to groundwater contamination. I've not been able to find anything. Believe me, I've looked. There's lots of studies around it, but there's nothing that is conclusive to any element regarding any sense of contamination of groundwater. Galvanization is primarily zinc. It's a zinc coating. It it deteriorates extremely slowly. The life of this solar array will be less than the useful life of these. And again, I think it's been mentioned before, galvanized installations for ground-based and subsurface installations are extremely common. Fence posts, street signs, all of your guardrails as they're put in, that's galvanized, pipe or some sort of structural steel that supports all that. So galvanized structures on and in the soil are extremely common. There are very large galvanized transmission towers throughout the state. And so it's very commonly used. And with that, I've not been able to find anything that would give an indication that there's concerns regarding
And
that.
how deep will these be put into the soil?
They do they'll do a soils test in order to make a determination as to what they need to do. And what their concern is uplift, actually, because the possibility that wind load may actually lift these up. But they would go anywhere from about 4 to 8 feet into the ground.
Okay. I just personally, my thought is that this one is very close to the other one, and I'm not trying to compare yours to the other one. It's just that they're very close, and we're part of our charge here is to not overburden one neighborhood.
Yep.
So that weighs on me a lot.
Well, we did take a look at that because we saw that in the regulation and we had a concern regarding that. In rural communities, it's very difficult to define the neighborhood. And you could have a long discussion regarding that.
Yes.
I think one of the things that might be taken into consideration, though, regarding what is the neighborhood here, is that no home would be able to see both of these. I don't think anyone taking a walk would encounter both of them. They could. I mean, they're a mile apart. So
Well, yeah,
but-
it's a 3-mile
Yeah,
walk from
so-
my house to go
yeah.
around Sneller.
So
and
you
come back
could,
down around.
certainly. And someone driving could encounter both of them. So it is difficult to say whether it's overburdened. The one thing about the regulation, and that may not have been taken into consideration when it was written, is that the ability to site a solar array lays heavily on the availability of the ability to put power into the system. And in many cases, it may warrant itself to being somewhat close to one another in the sense that other areas may not have that capacity. So we certainly don't want to overburden a neighborhood. We saw that in the regulation. We were trying to be conscious of that when we started the development of this site. And that was one of our thoughts, is that what is the neighborhood? And I don't want to take that away from anyone. Rural communities are indeed neighborhoods. But we thought, could anyone see both? Would anyone be impacted directly by both, primarily from a visual impact? And with that in mind, we thought that we would meet that requirement of not overburdening the neighborhood.
And the screening that you're going to put up is primarily on Mud Mill. Is that correct?
The visual screen?
Yes.
Yes, the visual screening is based primarily for the view from Mud Mill. And the reason for that is that we did view sheds from visualizations from many other locations, Sneller Road, along 81, further back. We looked at a lot of points. The view that was being impacted was the view from Mud Mill. And primarily what we wanted to do was to soften that view. The screening, particularly when it's young, will not block the view of the solar array. And we don't want to give the impression that it will. It will not block your ability to see it. However, the screening is meant to soften that view, designed by a landscape architect who takes great pride in doing just that, trying to incorporate natural landscaping in order to draw your eye away from something such as this, in order to make it so that your commute or your drive or your walk as you go along Mud Mill will not focus on something like the array, but will actually be pulled away because of the manner the landscaping is placed.
Just another question, really. I'm really not trying to be adversarial here. What if someone develops on the other side? I mean, I know some of it's landlocked and it would be really, really difficult to do and whatever, but would anything happen? I mean, is that normal? Like, would anything happen? Would you come back in and put more trees up or something? Or is that That doesn't have to happen. Just a question.
We have the design and with Lucas's firm and such, we have considered present day conditions. We've
Okay.
looked at what's there now. And some sense maybe of what might be there, but have we evaluated all different circumstances of different parcels being developed that are adjacent? The answer to that's no, we have not. We've really looked at it from the standpoint of what are the conditions today, primarily residences that are adjacent. If something were to happen down the road, we certainly understand that it could, but we have not taken into consideration specific things because we don't know what they are.
Okay,
And yeah, just to complement that as well. I mean, one of the criteria that we do look into early on in these projects is the what we call the interconnection, or how much energy we could plug into the utility infrastructure. And I mean, again, I don't think we could guarantee anything in the future, but as far as it is right now, we can safely say from our side that there is not enough what we call, hosting capacity next to our site, meaning our project would essentially be the biggest part of the infrastructure that's taking up the generation. And if anybody were to come in behind us, the upgrades would be so substantial that they would not be able to interconnect there. So just wanted to also, clarify one of the criteria that we select for these projects. And also just to address one of the other questions with regards to the surrounding neighborhood. When we're, as developers in the early stages, one other criteria that we do take into account is, the impact to the surrounding areas. And I think one of the strong suits looking at this project that we considered early on is how far away it is from the public way. And even so, I mean, we're definitely proposing screening because I think that will help mitigate the visual impact. But I think that, I can't speak to any other projects as I'm not too familiar and I'm not working on those specifically. But the distance from the road, I think, is above average for what you would see for a typical project this size. And, in addition, we are proposing this screening that I think will help mitigate any of these visual impacts.
thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Yep.
Could we take a moment to address maybe the concern for berming? It has come up. Would you have any interest in that, or are you all set?
I'm all set. I don't know if anyone else wants to hear it.
I believe you addressed
Appreciate
it
it.
last time that it's not a natural feature of the environment. I believe you also said that the addition of the berm, because of the width required, would cut down on the amount of space available for the project. Was that not also one of the comments?
It impacts the availability of the agricultural parcel.
Oh,
that the
okay.
homeowner wants it.
Okay, that was,
The biggest concern is the hydraulic impact to water as it wants to shed off the agricultural property and into the adjacent stream.
Did we say, before you go, did we say how many homes benefit from this? Do we know?
How many homes?
Yeah.
You said?
How many homes?
Yeah, roughly speaking, thank you. So one way, it's a bit of a complicated answer, but one way to answer this is, we have an estimated yearly output in terms of megawatt hours, and we can equate that to how much an average household consumes in terms of energy. When you take the average, for the area into account, it would be about 1,000 homes that you could, tap into this array. And that's just based on, yearly generation estimates and how much of the general area is consuming per household. One other thing I'd just like to add to is this is what we call a community solar project, meaning we would assign what we call off-takers as part of the generation of this project. So if you, for example, own a home and you have, say, the equivalent of 25 kilowatts of energy consumption, then you could have a virtual net metering on this array. And although you don't have solar panels on your roof, you would be getting, from an accounting standpoint, renewable energy directly to your home.
How does one, oh, sorry. Go
Is
ahead.
the
Supervisor.
percentage, is a percentage a true 10%? as well?
Sorry.
Off their national grid bill or off their bill? Is
So
it-
if they assign themselves as off-takers to this project, they would be getting 100% renewable energy in terms of bill credits, and they would be getting a discount on their bill.
Do you know how much that is?
Roughly speaking, 10%. But that's also something, depends on the agreement that we come to with that specific off-taker.
So it could be less. Could it
Could
be
be
more?
more, yes.
Okay.
On average, it's been 10%, and that has been consistent with, the community solar program in New York. The program's out now for a few years. There are a lot of built projects, and there's some track record to, be had. So there has been, data showing 10%, sometimes more, sometimes less, but
Why is it only a certain, why can't it be 20% or 25%? Less homes, 25%?
well, the main reason is the discount that we're giving to customers is directly being taken out of the revenue that the solar array is making.
Mhm.
So from a financial modeling perspective, the solar array is only able to give so much of a discount compared to, how much returns the project is making. And additionally, solar energy and renewable energy in general is cheaper to build nowadays than other energy generation sources. So that's why we're able to offer this discount, because the utility is offering, is distributing the energy to you being generated from a different energy source, and we're building it using a cheaper alternative. And that way we're able to give it a discount while still making some project returns. But I think, looking ahead, as the technology gets even cheaper, that discount can grow over time. But as it stands where we are in the industry, that's the, benchmark that we're able to set.
So what does a solar project this size make over a year?
So it's a great question. And it also depends on the generation estimates that we're accounting for in our modeling. So it may differ from, the actual generation after we looked at the data from 1 year. But I'm not sure I'd be able to give you an exact figure
Give me a rough
at this
estimate.
moment.
It's a rough. What's the project make?
It makes enough energy for 1,000 households.
Okay, that's not what I was asking. I was asking how much money do you make? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I could come back to you with the figure. I think that's also, part of the reason why we have this type of SPV structure or entity structure that is, a private entity delivering energy to the utility. And I'm just not sure I'd be able to share some of that information at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If this were to pass, how does a homeowner, they contact your organization, they contact National Grid? How does it work? I know we had a resident that asked, so make sure that got answered.
To register as an off-taker?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're actually gonna, within 6 months of when the array is going to be, quote, commissioned, we're going to be reaching out to mainly, residents in the area and local residents. And we're also going to be advertising throughout the larger area of New York. So it's not available just yet, just given the stage of the project, but we'll be, sending out, and we actually engage with third parties to do that. So we don't do that in-house, but a third party will, reach out to these off-takers and try to register. And you can also register if you'd like. You don't have to wait for someone to come to you.
So technically speaking, the people that live in the quote unquote neighborhood would benefit from this as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because
We'll have
there-
a website set up dedicated to anybody that wants to register as an off-taker. But primarily speaking, we focus on, the local area to get those off-takers.
Is there like a map or
onboarded.
something that you have of that general area? Is it 1 square mile, half a mile, or is it hit and miss, or how does it really, how do you map it out? Like I live this way, way far away. I can't get on that, correct? Or can I?
Yeah, you absolutely could.
You just have to sign up for it.
You just have to
That's it.
sign up.
So
Yep.
when you guys build these projects, do you send any documentation out to neighbors and people in the community saying, hey, you can go to this website and get 10% off your bill?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what we'll do. It's just not quite at that stage of the development process yet. And yeah, we focus on like the general area. I don't think there's like a rule of thumb on how far, but we always try to keep it very concentrated so that the community can benefit as well.
But you guys do make sure that the community knows that they can sign up to benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it is a sort of first come, first serve deal. And as soon as that capacity is taken up, then, yeah, we have other projects in the pipeline in the general area, but that's something that we're going to focus on in this region.
Okay. Anyone else? We appreciate.
Yeah, I had one more. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
no.
Can you just repeat for everyone to hear, how many trees are going to be covering Mud Mill Road?
How many trees we're planting, the project?
Yeah,
So it's about 150 trees and about 160 shrubs. So 33 sugar maple trees, 97 white spruce, 32 eastern hemlock, 80 gray dogwood, and 82 verbena.
appreciate that. I know we talk about the height of the trees that are currently going in now. I feel really bad, but I'm going to ask, how big do these trees potentially grow to?
Well, so the dogwood and the verbena are short. The sugar maple, we have plenty of them in the area. I think they can peak out. Let's talk about the life of the project. Let's say it's a 25-year life. In 25 years, that tree, you're asking an engineer, the landscape architect's not here, but
Apologize.
that tree might be a 25-year-old sugar maple tree is it 18 to 25 or 20 to 30 feet tall? I would I'm guessing. Similar for the spruce and the hemlock. So
So then the shrubs are just to cover like the under.
they are, yes. And so I think one of the questions was also about whether, could they be in staggered rows as opposed to linear. They're not planted like that. They're planted in clusters. So there's depth to the planting as well. So again, it's developed by a landscape architect. It's not just, trees plopped down by the engineer. We actually
That's unfortunately what we've had before. And I know that's the concern of, many individuals. You look at these other projects, I mean, especially the trees there, right? And the pictures that were sent.
Yeah.
And the fencing, I wanted to ask you about too. It's not going to be a chain link fence as I see here.
It is
Please
not.
explain to me more in simple terms what that fence is going to be.
It's a wooden post fence with a steel 4x4 wire mesh grating. It's referred to as a farm fence. It is elevated off the ground approximately 6 inches. The intention there is to allow smaller animals to continue to migrate through an area that they might have in the past. It will preclude, deer from getting into it, but smaller animals can continue on the normal path that they may have in the past. So it's far less obtrusive visually than a chain link fence. And the portions that you can see, the posts, are a little more aesthetically pleasing in the sense that instead of being a shiny reflective steel, they're a wooden post.
Appreciate it.
So I'm envisioning like, not chicken wire, like a chicken wire fence, like you see the post, but you don't really see the fencing in between.
Yeah, it's a fine, I don't know what gauge wire it is, but it's a fine gauge wire. It's strong, but it's not as thick as you would see a galvanized fabric fence for a chain link fence. And 4x4, if you can envision a 4x4 square pattern for the wire grid. It's the from Mud Mill, it's over 400 feet back, I think. I forget. You'd be hard pressed to see the fabric at all to see this fence. I mean, you might see that there's a fence there, but you're not going to see, individually as, the makeout of a fence.
And there's corn in front of that, right? In the summertime, corn?
Well, it's an agricultural field, how he uses it, but I think he has said that corn is one of the crops that's commonly planted in that field. Yes.
What's that?
Oh, done. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I will now read the findings and facts and conclusions, after which we will vote. Applicant Bartel South PV1 LLC, Mud Mill Road, type special permit for tier 3 solar energy system, 4.2 megawatt facility, tax map number 108.20.1. General issue summary. The subject property consideration is owned by the Donald and Marie Harwood Living Trust, consisting of 56.62 plus or minus acres of land located generally on the south side of Mud Mill Road, town of Brewerton, town of Cicero, hamlet of Brewerton. The property is currently zoned agricultural. The applicant wants to construct and maintain a 4.2 megawatt photovoltaic power system on active farmland on the south side of Mud Mill Road with the building of a new gravel access drive, post-driven solar racking, utility lines, and equipment. Access point will be directly from Mud Mill Road. The applicant is seeking a special use permit to build and operate the facility. The surrounding area is a mix of agricultural use and residential single-family homes located off of Mud Mill Road. The map submitted with the application shows the proposed location of several panel racks and is attached here too. The applicant submitted a full environmental assessment form. Development is not expected to be phased. A copy of the EAF is attached here too. Public hearings conducted. The town of Cicero conducted a full official public hearing on February 8th, 2023, addressing the application for a special permit to operate a type 3 facility and associated issues. Minutes from the public hearing are available from the town clerk or at the town website and are attached here too. The applicant presented the form and decommissioning plan. They also addressed the fact that they will not remove any soils from the site to be able to restore it to farmland. The applicant says the site is not visible and significant screening is proposed. The proposal is to lease the property to the solar farm. The applicant and owner expressed the importance of local jobs and local tax revenue. Solar farms in Cicero are fully taxable pursuant to the opt-out of the solar exemption. Some members of the public, among other concerns considered by the board, expressed the following concerns of note. 1, visual impact. Some members of the public spoke against the project, rejecting the visual disruption the panels, racks, and poles along Mud Mill Road would produce. The applicant countered that the site is not directly visible. It is a setback significantly from the main roadways, and there will be adequate screening. 2, the need to construct vegetative screening around the project was discussed at length. The resident showed photos of the raw land and demanded adequate screening for the project and requested the addition of a berm. The applicant stated that a berm would not be effective because it would encroach on existing farmland that is proposed to remain farmed and possibly would impede water flow. Number 3, the public asked if the electric field produced by the equipment was dangerous. The applicant submitted field tests that demonstrated that no appreciable noise or danger from electromagnetic fields. The applicant claimed non-ionizing radiation was well below thresholds. 4, several neighbors also spoke in favor of the project, noting the use was better than potential multifamily use. The town planning board. The town of Cicero planning board conducted a review of the proposed project and heard from both the applicant and the public. The town planning board issued a recommendation and report to the town board. A copy of the planning board report and findings are attached here too. Findings. This application for a zone change is properly classified at this application for a special use permit is properly classified as a type 1 action for the purpose of seeker compliance. Section 617.4 states that any residential project in a town, city, or village having a population of less than 150,000, 250 units to be connected at the commencement of habitation to existing community or public water and sewage systems, including sewage treatment work, qualifies as a type 1 action. The proposed development therefore exceeds a type 1 threshold. 2, during the process, the town board investigated and scoped the potential environmental impacts and decided that in lieu of submission of a full draft environmental impact statement, the developer needed to submit the following information and reports to supplement the duly filed and considered EAF long form. A, studies regarding remediation, public solar use, and electromagnetic fields. B, proposed site plans prepared by Kepler, Hahn, and Hyatt. C, photo comparison submissions. D, SHIPO archaeological study received December 2nd, 2022. And E, Ramble engineering review letter in response by Galehead containing 1, the decommissioning plan, 2, the draft SWPPP, 3, equipment spec sheet, 4, noise data, 5, national grid interconnection data, and 6, New York State Department of Agriculture and Market study regarding mitigation of agricultural lands. The applicant was told these studies constitute a baseline request only, and the town board may request further information if necessary. 3, town board acknowledges receipt of the GML recommendation report of the Onondaga County Planning Board. OCPB resolved the project would have no significant adverse intercounty or countywide implementations, but noted that there could potentially be negative traffic impacts created by the increased use. 3, the evidence produced for citing a tier 3 solar farm on this property with the proposed design and screening indicates the proposed project will not have a negative impact for town residents in proximity to the project area in a far greater capacity than the overall public in the town. The potential disruptions to the residents living near the project can be mitigated by installation of the proper screening as proposed. 5, the town board considered several possible uses of this property in light of the overall plan. The proposed use is consistent with town goals, and to the extent that it incorporates the recommendations of the planning board is acceptable, except as modified hereby. It is acceptable to the town as proposed. 6, if this application is approved, the board instructs the applicant to work with the town attorney to finalize the amount and form of acceptable security postings and the issuance of a limited right of entry agreement. 7, if this application is approved, the town board will not require the addition of a berm as recommended by the planning board. And that constitutes the findings of fact and conclusions.
Second.
Discussion? All in
Oh,
favor?
sorry. John, how many acres did you say it was? Was it the beginning?
It says 56.62 acres is the total site, the total of the entire parcel.
Okay. Thank you.
Were we voting on these findings and conclusions, or are we just voting on the decision, Mr. Jermaine?
You have to adopt it.
Okay, so okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain?
No.
Passed.
I move adoption resolution that town board approves the application known as Bartel South PV1 LLC for a special use permit for the property located at Mud Mill Road, South Side, tax map number 108.01-20.1 to accommodate proposed tier 3 solar energy system. The project includes the construction of a 4.2 megawatt alternating current photovoltaic power system. This approval will be subject to the appropriate decommissioning plan, securities, and access agreement being submitted prior to the permit being issued.
Second.
Discussion?
I'd just like to say, I'm generally not a big fan of these large solar projects. I mean, last meeting, we voted on and passed a law that I wrote that significantly increases the amount of time and expense associated with these projects. That having been said, after spending a lot of time thinking about this and discussing it, given the distance from the road, the screening, and the fact that this does allow this farm to continue operating as it has been, I think this is an appropriate, the issuance of this permit is appropriate in this circumstance.
I concur with Counselor Carp. I am not going to step in the way of residents who want to receive a credit for their national grid bills. They have gone up significantly in the last year. Again, I concur with Counselor Carp.
Anyone else? Clerk, call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Aye.
Aye. Number 5, Councilor Marizio.
Resolution amending resolution adopted February 8th, 2023 regarding section 466 of the New York State Real Property Tax Law, volunteer firefighter and ambulance worker exemption. Whereas on February 8th, 2023, following a public hearing and upon proper notice, the town of Cicero adopted a resolution immediately adopting a proposed amendment to section 466 of the New York State Real Property Tax Law, volunteer firefighter and ambulance worker exemption. And whereas the proposed law allows municipalities to choose the minimum eligibility standard from between 2 to 5 years of service to qualify for the exemptions. And whereas the town of Cicero wants to amend the previously adopted resolution of the board to include and clarify the service time frame eligibility standard to qualify for the exemption. Therefore, it is hereby moved the town of Cicero hereby adds the adoption of a 2-year minimum service requirement for exemption eligibility. Members must serve a minimum of at least 2 years to qualify. This resolution amends the previously adopted resolution of the board and shall be effective as of the date of filing of this resolution with the town clerk, to be known as local law number 5 of 2023.
Second.
Discussion.
I think what we're doing is fantastic.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any wish to vote no or abstain?
I will abstain because I am a volunteer firefighter in the town of Cicero.
Thank you. Passed.
Move for the adoption of a resolution approving the hiring of Amy O'Mara as a full-time administrative assistant at a starting pay rate of $23 an hour, effective February 22nd, 2023, budget code A13151.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, I had oh, go ahead. Never mind.
Anyone else? All in
Oh,
favor?
no, yes, sorry, I apologize. I had a good conversation with the supervisor this morning, explaining the reasons why, and I appreciate that conversation. I apologize for that. I'm good.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Wish to vote no or abstain? Passed.
Zoning Department approved property maintenance code violations contract. Move to adoption resolution approving the 2023 property maintenance code violations contract with AAA Quick Plows and Lawns and authorizing an amount of $18,000 for 2023 property maintenance services related to code violations to AAA Quick Plows and Lawns. Be it further resolved, authorizing the supervisor to execute all necessary documents. Budget code A86644.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Wish to vote no or abstain? Passed.
I move for the adoption of a resolution. The town board approves the purchase of a DJI Mavic 3 thermal drone and additional batteries from Drone Nerds Incorporated for $6,157. Budget code 312052.
Second.
Discussion.
I believe Lieutenant Myers, you're a certified drone pilot, correct? Or licensed? Oh, well, okay, we knew about the airplanes, but we're not buying an airplane, just a drone.
Do not give him any ideas.
Tell the chief we're not getting a plane, okay?
And this can also be used, I want everyone to know, this can also be used for our drainage, as well as the emergency situations that we may have at hand.
No, this is something that'll provide a great capability for pretty much all aspects of town operation. It's going to be fantastic.
Perfect.
I'm excited to get to places that we can't get to when there's issues with, Mud Creek. Very exciting for that.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Wish to vote no or abstain? Passed.
Move the adoption resolution. The town board approves payment of the January 2023 Drivers Village Vehicle Repair Bill for $4,043.52. Budget code B312042.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Wish to vote no or abstain? Passed.
Highway Department approval for the 2-month rental of a road sweeper. Move for the adoption of a resolution that the town board approves for a 2-month sweeper rental from CNS Sweeping in the amount of $16,000, budget code DB 514048.
Second,
Discussion.
Mr. Woznicko, what would it cost, since we're paying $8,000 a month to rent these? What would it cost to buy one? Okay, I think we'll keep renting. Thank you.
Chris,
It was worth the ask.
Yeah,
Chris, I had did you have a question?
I do. Have a
Go ahead.
question.
Mhm.
Does the county have a sweeper? I mean, is there some kind of, can we use your sweeper and,
Chris needs to turn his mic on.
okay. Okay, thanks.
Mine was more so on the timing of when is it usually? It's usually like April, right? Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Anyone else? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Wish to vote no or abstain? Passed.
Approval to repair grade all. Move for the adoption of a resolution that the town board approves Alta Equipment Company to repair a cab body chassis on the grade all XL 4100 in the amount of $7,337.51. Budget code DB 513050.
Second,
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Should vote no or abstain? Passed.
Approval for lawn maintenance for 2023 season. Move for the adoption of a resolution that the town board approves for AAA quick plows and lawns as the lowest bidder to maintain highway property, seasonal price $5,550.37. Budget code DB 51324.
Second.
Discussion. Is this something we might want our parks to look at this year?
I mean, we can ask them if they've got the time to do it. I don't have a problem. with
Okay.
that.
We'll vote on it tonight and.
Yeah, we can always, yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
To vote no or abstain, passed.
Amend the bird dog wildlife control contract. Move for the adoption of a resolution that the town board approves of a contract change for setup amount from $100 to $200 and no change for each beaver removal of $100 for bird dog wildlife control amount of $2,000. Budget code SD 854040400.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Wish to vote no or abstain, passed.
Approval to purchase a Bobcat track loader with snow blower attachment. Move for the adoption of a resolution that the town board approves for the purchase of a Bobcat loader with snow blower attachment from Clark Equipment Company in the amount of $59,965.78, paid from ARPA funds.
Second.
Discussion.
I realize it says for, snow blower attachment, but this is a piece of equipment that can be used in a whole bunch of different
Yeah.
cases. Yeah.
Chris, do we have a sweeper for that? We do. Okay,
It's-
but we have
it's
it. Okay, perfect.
It's a regular looking Bobcat that you can just throw
Great.
attachments on.
This
Yeah,
will
yeah,
take
yeah.
care of the
Max.
the sweeping of the sidewalks throughout the town. Okay, perfect,
Parking lots.
perfect. Anyone else? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Should vote no or abstain, passed. Anyone else with any agenda items? No, we'll go on to discussion. The second annual snowmobile ride for children with special needs is returning to Cicero this Saturday, February 25th. The event is free for children with special needs ages 3 to 20 and their families. A parent or guardian must be present. If there isn't enough snow for the snowmobile rides, there will be offered rides by the South Bay Fire Department with fire trucks. And this will be held at the fire department, South Bay Fire Department on Saturday. Again, it's February 25th,
It was a
believe
great
that's at
program
10
last
a.m.
year. Yeah.
10 a.m. It's a great time. Anyone else? No?
Yeah, just thank you to everybody who applied for our comprehensive plan committee. The applications closed last week and we have selected our committee and the kickoff meeting is this upcoming Monday. So I look forward to this process getting off the ground and I think we have a good group of folks that are going to be working well together with Bergman and get our town moving. So thank you. Anyone still interested in the facilities committee? That application process is still open.
And I
We
just,
roughly know how many applicants there were.
There was 35-ish.
I also want to thank our clerk for the wonderful job she's doing on our agenda. I want to thank you and Gretchen for your hard work. And that'll be it. We'll open up the public input. Does anybody like to speak for public input tonight? With that being said, make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.